Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Today, we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to be talking about something that is very much breaking news, and I'm going to sort of educate you about what the news is reporting, and then we're going to have my spirit guides join us and talk to us about some likely outcomes or what the energy suggests the outcome may be. Now, if you're new here, and many of you are, and I really appreciate you subscribing and coming along this journey with me, you may not know that I channel these messages. Now, in the beginning here, I am going to be reporting. I'm going to be reading to you from reports, but then I'm going to switch to channeling, where 60% of my consciousness will be my spirit guides. 40% will be Susan trying to make sense of what the heck they're talking about. Now, that spirit guide that's going to be pretty much more present today than maybe he has in the past is Edward R Murrow. Now, Edward R Murrow was a very famous journalist back in the day, and he came to me. I don't know if he self-appointed himself or how that happened, but anyway, he's a spirit guide that I have right now, and he's the one whose idea this was. So we're going to give this a try. I think this is something he wants to help me with, and he wants me to do more of. So let me get right down to the news. The news, which I think this is some of the biggest news out there that nobody's talking about very much, a little bit here and there, but we're really going to find out. We're going to get into this because this really has some really large implications. Now, this news is in regarding to our Supreme Court, and specifically regarding the SCOTUS alito. SCOTUS alito. Now, what happened was, you guys might remember very recently, the ruling that was basically the death knell of our Roe v. Wade law was leaked. You recall that it was leaked, and Alito wrote the opinion. Somebody leaked it, and there was hue and cry and all of this. And of course, the Supreme Court said, we're going to find out who leaked this. And of course, they wanted to blame a poor clerk or some assistant somewhere in the leaking of it, and no one ever discovered who leaked it. But we do know that it was leaked, and we do know that the opinion was written by Justice Alito. Now, here's the breaking news. It turns out that there is a letter that was mailed to Chief Justice Roberts. Now, this letter was also mailed to the New York Times as well. Now, the New York Times has kind of sequestered this or kept this under wraps for a while, perhaps even before the election. How interesting is that, is it not? But this letter was written by a gentleman named Reverend Ron Schenck. Okay, now Reverend Ron Schenck said that he maintains in this letter that he was told the outcome of the 2014 case before the Supreme Court, before the Supreme Court announced the outcome. So basically, he's telling us, hey, this information was leaked to me. Now, the actual case was let's see if I can get it for you. The actual case was when Hobby Lobby, the craft store owned by Christian evangelicals, took to the Supreme Court to say that even though Obama's Affordable Care Act includes birth control, we're not going to be held accountable for that. We're not going to allow our employees to have this birth control be as part of their insurance. Now, I mean, this sounds ridiculous to me as I'm saying it to you, but this is what happened. And we all know, well, maybe we don't know, but the court decision came down in favor of Hobby Lobby. So if you recall, thinking back all the way back to 2014, the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, had to take birth control out of the options as part of its care because this ruling by the Supreme Court, which was brought to the Supreme Court by Hobby Lobby. Now, where it gets interesting is that both of those opinions were written by Samuel Alito. Both of them were leaked. Now, one of them was leaked to the press. The other one was leaked to the conservative Christian right groups in advance that said, hey, we have some good news for you. There's a ruling coming that will be in your favor. Now, how did all this go down? Because this is the thing, and I'm reading you the news. I am not channeling. This is not from my guides. This is news. This has been reported because I think it's important to understand this. The New York Times goes on to say, Mr. Schenk's allegation creates an unusual and contentious situation. A minister who spent years at the center of the anti-abortion movement now turned whistleblower. Also, a denial by a sitting justice and an institution that shows little outward sign of getting to the bottom of the recent leak of the abortion ruling or of following up on Mr. Schenk's allegation. Now, the interesting thing also about this is that the Times says, look, I mean, basically, this is Mr. Schenk's word against Justice Alito's word, but the New York Times found a trail of contemporaneous emails and conversations that strongly suggest that he knew the outcome of the author of Hobby Lobby decision before it was made public. So in other words, there are emails to back up Mr. Schenk's suggestion or allegation that this information was leaked to him because he then emailed his compadres, his groups, and said, hey, we've got good news coming. He didn't come out and say, I know because I have it on word from Justice Alito that he's going to write his opinion in favor of us, but I have it on word that we're going to have really good news. So there's really enough information here to put two and two together, but perhaps not a smoking gun. But here's the thing that I think that we need to understand. Mr. Schenck, who led an evangelical nonprofit in Washington, said he learned about the Hobby Lobby opinion because he worked for years to exploit the court's permeability, to exploit the court in the sense that he gained access to the court. He gained access through faith, through favors traded with gatekeepers, and through wealthy donors to his organization, abortion opponents who he called stealth missionaries. Now, this man is basically spilling the beans as to how this all went down, right? So he's saying that people that he knew that were wealthy donors had dinner, that this woman had dinner with Justice Alito and Justice Alito's wife at a home, not at a restaurant. How convenient, not any place where they could be seen or videotaped or whatever, at a private home. And during this dinner, Alito told her, don't worry, you're going to have good news. The Supreme Court is bringing you good news. Now, this woman who was a wealthy donor turned around and sent a message to Reverend Schenck and said, if I have good news for you, if you would like to learn about it, call me. No emails. This is in 2014. Call me, no emails, please. Schenck calls her, gets the word that the Supreme Court has got good news. Again, talking in code, very much the way Donald Trump talks, right? They're already aware that they're doing something allegedly illegal, and they're going to talk in code just in case something like this ever happens, right? So So in May, after the draft opinion in the abortion case, Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization was leaked in what Justice Alito recently called a grave betrayal. The Chief Justice took the unusual step of ordering an investigation by the Supreme Court's marshal. 2 months later, Mr. Schenck sent his email to Chief Justice Roberts saying he believed his information about the Hobby Lobby case was relevant to the inquiry. And he said he has not gotten any response. Okay. So here's where it goes on. This is in the New York Times. It goes on to say in early June 2014, an Ohio couple who were Mr. Schenck's star donors shared a meal with Justice Alito and his wife, Martha Am. A day later, Gail Wright, one of the pair, contacted Mr. Schenck, according to an email reviewed by the Times. Rob, if you want some interesting news, please call. No emails. This is how it went down, you guys. This is how it went down. So what you have here is Mr. Alito. I want to call him Mr. Alito because I don't think it's going to be a SCOTUS all that much longer. Mr. Alito leaked, allegedly, it would appear, leaked outcomes of the Supreme Court rulings twice to people that had access to him and to his court, to the court. It also looks like Justice Roberts, the Chief Justice Roberts, has knowledge of this letter. I'm looking at a copy of the letter right now that Mr. Schenck wrote to Chief Justice Roberts. And no response at all. So, and this was in July. So, and then the New York Times holds this letter, for after the midterms. I mean, it just makes you want to pull your hair out. Honestly, it really does. But let me now bring in the guides, because otherwise I'm going to get all kind of PO'd, and that's not what we're here. We're not here for that, right? Okay. Okay. So the guides. So I'm going to ask the guides some questions. I have questions. I think you probably do too. The first question that I'm going to ask is, and this is for entertainment purposes only. The first question I'm going to ask is, did Justice Alito allegedly, but really, leak those memos? And the answer is yes. They are telling me yes. They're saying yes, and much more. The question that really is burning a hole in me is the coziness of special interest groups with these Supreme Court justices. So I would like to ask, is the coziness between Alito and this special interest group a one-off? Is it limited to Alito, or do other justices also have these kinds of cozy relationships with people that are bringing court cases before the court, the highest court in the United States? I have to calm myself down. Well, the answer is no, not everyone. But yes, there are. Well, I mean, Roberts is involved. I mean, they're like, Roberts is involved because he got the letter. At the very least, we can say this man sent a letter, and it hasn't been accepted or acknowledged. So we know now that John Roberts, that Justice Roberts, is involved in a seeming cover-up. So we know that. Also, I would like to ask the guides about, and I don't care. I honestly don't care if this is dangerous or not dangerous. I don't really care. I'm over caring anymore. So I want to ask the guides about Kavanaugh. They're talking about Kavanaugh now. Oh, this is fixing to get real kind of interesting. I wasn't going to ask about Kavanaugh. I was going to ask about Jenny Thomas. Yeah, it's a kind of pervasive. They're saying this is a culture. There's a culture that has been allowed to grow, allowed to continue, but not only continue, more like grow within the Federalist Society judges. So within those Republican judges, this has been allowed to grow. It's not limited. I don't think, I want to say that it's not necessarily limited to Republicans. However, I would say that the Democratic justices nowhere near on this level, but if you're going to take a magnifying glass out and look very carefully, you'll see some things that could be construed as a cozy relationship. Not on the same level, like the Republicans are like much more involved, but okay, so Kavanaugh, what's the thing about Kavanaugh? So it's the same thing they've always told me, and I've always said on videos about Kavanaugh, and that's dark money. There's a connection to some money issues, allegedly, for entertainment purposes only. And now I'm going to move on to Jenny Thomas. They're showing me, and Clarence Thomas, right? So I would like to ask the guides if Clarence Thomas they're talking to me. It's not the same. It's not the same. Alito, for whatever reason, Alito is much more bold in his ministrations, in his actions, and Clarence specifically has taken measures to cover up, or I mean, you would have to prove that he talked to his wife over the dinner table or over dinner about XYZ, right? I mean, he's taken steps to limit his, I mean, you can infer that, of course, they're married, and how are they not going to talk about this? But you can't prove it. That's where Thomas is like, Thomas is much more guarded about this than even Jenny. Jenny is not guarded about it. She's sloppy about it. We're going to find out things. They are going to find out things that she did that were, again, the guides want to say, you don't have laws on the books for this, right? I mean, this has been our problem all along. Trump has done all these things, and a lot of them, there's just no law on the books. We never thought we would have a president that would do these things. So now we're left trying to figure out what is allowed under the guise of being a president or even an ex-president. We don't really have hard laws about that. And that's why the guides have always said, we have to find a law on the books and then stick them with that law. That's why the guides want Fani Willis and Tish James and E. Jean Carroll to be the sheroes, the 1, 2, 3 knockout punch for Trump, because they're laws. There's no way you can get around it. It's black and white. It's in the Constitution. It's a law. Now, when we get to SCOTUS, we don't have a law that says that we don't have a law that says that you can't leak. I mean, it's mind-blowing, but we don't have laws that say that you can't have dinner with someone that literally is bringing a case to your court, the highest court in the land, because the Supreme Court regulates themselves. They literally regulate their own ethics. So we don't have laws for this. We are here basically witnessing a rogue. Our highest court in the land is rogue, and we don't really have much we can do about it. It's mind-blowing. I know it's mind-blowing. Now, where we can, what the guides are saying, where we can do something is if they've broken a law. So there's laws around money, around finances, maybe money in washing machines, dark money. There's laws around that. So I do think that there are ways that we can sort of kind of bring justice to these people, but it's not what we need. It's not big. The guides were just talking to me. It's not really what we need. Now, let me tell you some good news, sort of. hopefully this is good news. Well, I mean, it's never good news. I don't wish that anybody gets sick. I don't wish that anybody cross over. I try not to. Sometimes I do. I'm going to be honest with you, but I try not to, especially try not to admit it. But anyway, there's some things afoot. Okay. So I think there's something afoot with Kavanaugh, with some kind of money issue, that could be related for some reason to Florida, maybe even to DeSantis, or somehow Florida, maybe not DeSantis, but I'm seeing Florida. I'm seeing the South. I don't know where this guy came from. I don't think he's from the South, but there seems to be some money flowing to him, or he's involved in something that has to do with either Georgia or Florida or South Carolina, that kind of area right there. That is going to get him in trouble. The guides have said this for a long time. Okay. I don't see him being on the court very long. I don't see him being there 2 years from now. Definitely not 3 years from now. Okay. Now, would I like to tell you that he's going to be gone in 6 months? I would love to. I can't do that. The energy doesn't suggest that. It's a long, hard battle. Now, let me talk about Alito. There's nothing we can do about Alito. But there is something. I'm going to get to that. And then let me talk about Chief Justice Roberts. I was always, whenever I talk to the guides about the Supreme Court, the interesting thing is, of the Republicans, they kind of hold him to the side. Now, I'm not saying that he's innocent or whatever, but I'm saying he's not put in the same batch with the Tony Barretts and the Kavanaughs and the Alitos and the Thomas. He's not put in that batch. He's kind of over to the side. So, but what is interesting is that, and this is news too. I'm pretty sure that you guys don't know this. I didn't know this. When I learned about all this, I asked my guides to show me more information. So what happens is, all of a sudden, news stories appear before me that are not very well known. So something that happened just recently was apparently Justice Roberts has had a stroke. He's had, I think, 2 strokes in the last, say, 8 years, 10 years. And very recently, within the last month or 2 months, I don't remember, he fell down at a park, at a public park, and really hurt himself. Look, cut his head. His head was covered in blood, according to people that witnessed this. Now, nobody heard about that. That was not public knowledge to my understanding of things. But I'm just saying to you that there's questions that now people will be asking about him and his ability to lead the court. You have to ask about his medical fitness. You also have to ask why he sat on this letter and he hasn't acknowledged it. So there's that going on for him. I've seen some sort of health issue with Amy Coney Barrett. I see, and I have seen Justice Thomas walking away from the court. Remember, I just makes my blood boil. I see that picture of Jenny, and I've seen the picture actually exist. There's actually a press picture of her that happened about a month ago where she's got the exact thing that I saw about 2 months ago. She's looking back over her shoulder and she's got this sneer of a smile on, like, you can't catch me. I'm untouchable by, and in the energy of this, she's leaving, and so is Thomas. They're leaving SCOTUS. They've done their damage. They're happy to leave. They've really done their damage. They feel like they fulfilled their contract with the Federalist Society. And now they're going to golden parachute out of there without anything being the wiser or having suffered any of the consequences of their injustices, alleged injustices. So let's take stock of what we just talked about. We have Roberts. I don't see him. I mean, I'd give that man two years. That's not long. I think he'll step down. I'm not saying he's going to cross over. I'm saying that I don't see him on the court. We have Amy Coney Barrett about 2 or less years. We have Kavanaugh, 2 or less years. These are maximum time frames. Something could happen in 6 months. And we have Alito. Now, Alito is the one that I can't. Let me just look a little deeper. He doesn't want to leave. He doesn't, I mean, nobody wants to leave, but these other justices, I see situations that they don't have a choice. They literally just don't have a choice. But with him, I can't see a situation right now I think he might be there a little bit longer. But here's the thing. This is the good news. So you have truly a new Democratic Party, a scrappier, you might say a feistier Democratic Party in the House and in the Senate. You're going to have Hakeem Jeffries be our leader over there in the minority, if that stays that way. And he is as scrappy as it gets. And his good friends are coming in positions 2 and 3, and Clyburn is going to stay with 4. So you have a complete change in the Democratic leadership, even if it is a minority leadership in the House. You also have this energy of the Democrats taking the gloves off. They finally see what's really at stake. I think January 6th, the actual event of January 6th, just literally threw cold water on their face, and they realized, we thought these people were just deplorables a la Hillary Clinton, but it turns out they're criminals. They're not deplorable, they're criminal. So I think now you have this very renewed and not even renewed, completely new energy to hold to account the Republicans. So I can tell you that that's interesting. It's never good when you're talking and you lose your voice. That has to do with speaking your truth. That's your throat chakra basically seizing shut on you. And it can be an indication of something that you're talking about. I still think the Democrats are gonna scream their truth. They're gonna speak their truth. And I do think that if you have this lack of faith in Justice Roberts, you have lack of faith in Alito. You have lack of faith in Coney Barrett because she basically lied before the committee that appointed her and said she would not go against settled law with Roe. And you're going to have potentially and allegedly lies being proven and connections to ill-begotten gains with Kavanaugh. Now, the guys have always said that this year, next year, 3 justices are going down or going out, going down, however it is. They're not going to be on the court anymore. But the good news, I think, is that there's a lot of energy for us to increase the justices to 13 justices. It's within the scope. It's allowed within the Constitution. They're showing me with the upheaval of Congress, with especially this new special counsel taking down Trump, on top of that, the evidence that has been uncovered by the January 6th committee has implicated, allegedly, sitting House members. Number one, I need to clarify that. I'm sorry. Number one, because of Jan 6, but number 2, because of RICO laws, racketeering laws, which could be a spinoff from Jan 6, but certainly are their own entity. So these people, sitting House members, are going to be, they're going to be just ejected. Like I see them being ejected from their seat, like a Pop-Tart out of a toaster. So now we have to look at each of those states and see how they go about replacing someone, a House member that has to leave Congress for whatever reason. Some of those states get to appoint, the governor gets appointed. Some of those states will be a runoff, a special election. I don't know. I am going to look at that. I'm going to look at these people and I'm going to figure out what state they're from. And I'm going to figure that out. I'm going to do that. It's on my list to do. But let's just say to you that sticking with SCOTUS, if we get a couple of more seats in the House and we've got control of the Senate, we very well may be able to expand the court. And we're going to be able to expand the court because of a couple of reasons. Number one, the court it looked completely like a kangaroo court, a Mickey Mouse court before this. Now we have real allegations and evidence that the court is not ethical. Now, as I said, they get to self-police themselves on that, but they're losing the trust of the people. The people are who support and elect their Congress people, which is why I don't know if I'll forgive the New York Times for holding on to that letter until after the midterms. Just egregious, truly egregious what they've done there. Because we could have, that really could have changed the face of the House and made it much more competitive for us, and then allowed us to go in and deal with SCOTUS, which truly needs to be dealt with. But it doesn't matter. This is what I think is interesting about this. It seems to me, energetically, that no matter how bad it is, how heavy the foot of corporate America is, a special interest is on the scales of justice, Spirit is putting their big old size 14s on the other side, because that's what it looks like. How else can you explain this man who was always a religious right operative, a very high operative, someone that would know someone else with enough money to go and have dinner with Justice Alito and his wife? It's a pretty high-ranking religious right operative who now all of a sudden has had some kind of change of heart, revelation, I don't know. To me, that's Spirit. That is Spirit leveling the playing field a little bit. Now, I will just say about that. You might say, well, you've always said that we have free will and Spirit doesn't get involved, and this is a training. Earth is a school, right? Yes, I have always said that. But the guides have also said way back that if things get out of balance too much on Earth, the energy of Earth gets out of balance. And I've said this before on many videos. If the energy of Earth gets out of balance, you can imagine Earth wobbling, that our energy is off. And that sends waves out to every other realm and dimension. That screws them up. This is why we're not allowed to blow ourselves up with nuclear weapons. We're not allowed to. They stop us. Because if we did, the resulting shock waves would affect other existences. We can, to a degree, we can kill ourselves and kill each other and war and crime and whatever we want to do. But when the Earth's energy gets so out of balance, they come in and they kind of straighten it a little bit. They save us from the worst possible outcome. Okay? And I feel like we got real close to a really bad outcome. Now, what does that mean? I mean, what it means, let me explain it a little bit better. It means that Earth's energy is too negative. Overall, humans on Earth are much more negative than positive. So it's never going to be static. It's never going to be like this and stay the same. Energy doesn't stay the same. Energy is always moving. We're always breathing in and out. Energy is always moving. But it should be more within this. And now it's just completely off the scales. So it is my interpretation of what the guides are telling me that they're going to come in and they're going to put their size 14 angel shoes on the scale to sort of equal it out a little bit. They're not going to make it. They're not going to balance it. They're not going to do that. Now, that's an important thing for you to understand. You're not going to see, and I'm sorry to have to say this, you know what I'm going to say? 1-800-SPIRIT guides, press 1 for complaints. We're not going to see all the justice we want to see. For instance, Clarence Thomas is probably going to walk off into his wonderful existence with his pockets bulging with money, maybe. Or maybe he just will not face any real justice. That's going to let us down. So it's like, again, the guides are trying to adjust our expectations, which is what they're always doing. They're always trying to say, you will get some justice. You may not get all the justice you want. or all the justice you need, or all the justice you feel that is due. It's not perfect. It is going to get better. You are going to learn from this. Believe me, you will learn from this. We're already seeing it. The Democrats have already grown a pair, and they're already acting like they got a pair. And that's going to continue. You're going to see real, I don't know what that word is, guys. You guys really, scraffling is not a word. It's not a word. Oy, yay. It's something like, sometimes I watch these videos and I go, the word is Susan, the word is this, the word is this. I don't know what the word is, but basically you're going to see the Democrats engage with the Republicans and not just say, oh, okay, we'll step down, we'll give you the gavel, okay. You're not going to see that anymore. You're going to see Democrats stand up and say, no, this is wrong. No, we're not going to concede. We want a recount. We want this. We want an investigation. Or your investigation is full of malarkey. You're going to see scrappy, whatever word they got. You're going to see that. So there's a lot to be hopeful for. But in the meantime, just know that you're probably going to see rot, decay, horribleness, terrible, unethical things. And we have to see it. We have to look at it. Because that's how we fix it. Oh my God. Right? How did we let this happen? How did the New York Times? How did Justice Roberts? Blah, blah, blah. How long has this been happening? Now we have it back to 2014. When did it start? What kind of investigation can we have? What are our rights? Are there any laws? We may be sorely disappointed that we have no rights and there are no laws that govern this. But at least it's knowledge. At least now we know, and because of that, the Supreme Court will lose its respect even more so than it has. And losing that respect will give Biden and the Democrats the ability to join with some Republicans and extend and expand the court. That's the end of that story. So maybe Alito is going to stay there. Maybe even Justice Roberts will stay there. Maybe some of these other people will stay there. But we're gonna expand it to the maximum that we can. And I think the Democrats, I truly hope the Democrats will have the balls or the ovaries to appoint Democrats. We have the Senate. We can appoint Democrats to the Supreme Court all day and all night. So this is where we are. This is really breaking news. And it's not anything anybody's talking about. So I thought I would let you know about it. And let me know what you think in the comments. Take really good care of yourself. We'll be back together. I'll do another video. I'm going to do another video this week. This is Sunday, and I don't know if this will go up today or tomorrow, but I will do another video this week. But let me know what you think about this. What are your thoughts about it? And if you have questions, follow-up questions, many times when I'm reading your comments in the video, below the video, the spirit guides answer your comments. So if you do have a follow-up question, throw it out there. Quite possibly the spirit guides will answer it right there in that format. Take really good care of yourself. Listen, in the end, everything is going to be okay. But it is going to be, I'm not going to lie to y'all. It's going to be a shock and awe. And the guides have been telling you guys this. They've been telling you guys this, that November was going to be shock and awe. I think we're going to have more shock and awe going into half of December, at which point I think everything goes crickets for the majority of the December holidays that we celebrate. And then January, it's back to business. And I do think that the new special counsel is going to kick butt and take names. I do think that he's going to be fast on this. I don't think he's going to delay. I don't think there's any delay anywhere. I think he's going to be merciless, is what they said. And he's going to have just no feelings about taking these people out. So I think there's a lot of changes coming, and I think there's a lot of good coming, but only after we witness some of the rot and some of the infection first. So take really good care. We'll see you again real soon right here on this channel. For entertainment purposes only.